All right, let's welcome into Straight Fire somebody you probably know. I know he's been on my radio show back in the day when I had it. And I think he might have been on Straight Fire. I've known this guy for maybe a decade now, maybe 15 years. He is the senior managing editor of sports betting at The Athletic. My guy, Chicago's finest, the biggest Caleb Williams, no, the biggest Derrick Rose fan I know. Vic Chokshi. Vic, how are you, my man?
I'm doing well, man. Thank you for having me on. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah. Vic was at Fox doing gambling stuff for a while with us, and then he departed to the Athletic. Just started. They created a new position for the guy, and this is how big his star is rising. So Vic goes over to the Athletic. Within like 2 days, he's got a byline on a Carl Anthony Towns story in the New York Times. I mean, Vic, what is going on, man?
No, that was rare. We had some people out, but it's a great opportunity for me and my family. I'm very excited. I loved my time at Fox Sports. I actually owe that job and a lot of everything I'm doing to you. And I know I've given you shout outs before, but I want people to know that like 10 years ago, I wrote blind emails to hundreds of people. And J Mac and Chad Millman were two out of five people that wrote me back to jump on calls with me, like hear out my story, find me freelance work, and I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. And you helped me get that Fox Sports job too. So
Wow.
I always want to make sure people know that, man. You do a lot for people behind the scenes, and I do want to make sure you get your flowers for sure.
Well, I mean, listen, I can just put your name out there for the guys, and then you got to take it from there. You take the baton, and you crushed it, obviously. And you're big on betting, so I wanted to bring you in to talk sports betting, the industry at large, because we're at a weird point right now, and we'll get to that. But first of all, I need to start with your Chicago Bears. I'm on a gambling text thread with Vic and Ryan Glassbeagle. We were all at the big lead, and they're both big NFL guys, and we're doing picks every week. But your Bears have a big one in London against Jacksonville. And Caleb is starting to percolate. We're starting to see the Bears get it together against, albeit inferior competition. How are you feeling, all as we near the midway or the 1/3 point of the Caleb Williams rookie season?
Yeah, I'm feeling good, man. I think for me, the season has always been, can the kid show progress? Can he show that he's special? And can the Bears be competitive this season? I know there's a lot of crazy fans out there that are like, you get a quarterback and all of a sudden you're going to the Super Bowl and things like that. But he's a rookie. He's going to have his ups and downs. To me, he's already showing things that we haven't seen as Bears fans in years, maybe going back to Jay Cutler. And so I'm feeling good, man. Last week's second touchdown throw to DJ Moore, where he looked right, moved the safeties off, and hit DJ in stride. Those are the kind of things that get me excited. So I'm hyped. I'm happy to have him. And I do think that they have a couple more opportunities going against some weak defenses coming up. I
Mhm.
know the Jags are what, 31st in total yards defense. And
They're not
so
good at anything. Yeah.
yeah, so he's got a shot again to go up and put up some big numbers and have a big game. So yeah, I'm hyped, man. I do think this will be an interesting game. I was at the last Bears game in London 2019. We lost
Oh,
to the Raiders. So I don't know. Jags have home field advantage almost. This is London squad. No, I'm just messing. You see Tom Brady jerseys, you see all types of crazy jerseys out there, but it'll be a good game. The look ahead line, I think, before the season was Jags -1, and it's out to Bears -2 right now.
yeah. I am curious. A couple injuries on the Bears defense. It looks like Brisker's concussed. Smith, Pickens on the injury report. Again, it's small potatoes. I'm leaning toward taking the Bears here. I just, this Jacksonville team is really bad in man coverage. Keenan Allen should feast. He's good in versus man zone. DJ Moore is a brutal matchup for Jacksonville. I don't know. Caleb could shine here, but concerns about a rookie quarterback first trip to London.
Yeah, Brisker is a big part of what we do on defense. We have, depending on what metrics you read, the best secondary in the NFL right now. But that being said, our D is just so good that we're always going to be in every single game and they're going to keep us there. And so it'll come down to the offense as usual. I think if they get to 24 points, they win this game pretty easily. So that's kind of the mark for me. It's going to be a close game, but I do think the Bears pull it out. I have them winning by 3 this game. And so I know that's not saying much, but I have done pretty well this year on how the Bears are going to do. I had them
Mm-hmm.
losing to the Texans. Did not have them losing to the Colts, and if it wasn't for a botched goal line
Yeah, that was
play
a tough one.
sequence, we should have won that game as well. But I do think the Bears win this game.
It's funny. I'm the opposite with the Jets. I had them against the Broncos. I had them against the Vikings. Not good for the Jets. But we're not talking about the Jets today. I did that yesterday. Let's go back to the gambling thing. So we're at this weird. So gambling's been, I guess it's been like maybe 3 or 4 years in the mainstream now, post COVID, where a lot of states have it legalized. I'm just curious, as someone who's in the hiring position, what are you looking for in potential gambling writers, potential gambling talent? Because it's weird. Nobody wants to go into sports media anymore. That's a dying industry. But sports media gambling is a space that's taking off and has a lot of room for growth. What do you look for specifically in potential hires?
Yeah, I think you nailed it. So, if I was to take the traditional path in sports media, I wouldn't be where I'm at already within 8 years, right? And so, there's people that have been working in the space 10, 15, 20, 30 years to get some of these opportunities that I've gotten. And honestly, that's just because the industry is growing so much. PASPA got repealed. There's a lot of money being thrown around. And so, you are right. There's some great opportunity right now. That's what I try to tell some of these younger people that reach out as well is fantasy and betting, there is still money being thrown at it. It's still growing right now. So good areas to kind of understand and be able to speak the verbiage. And honestly, I'm looking for like good people that work hard, treat people well, that are smart. But the biggest thing is like, what is your value add? What is your differentiator? Everyone reads and consumes pretty much the same information now, right? So can you make it fun and easily digestible? Or do you have this amazing personality that you can stick out and kind of break through and get your voice heard? Or are you a big analytics, metrics, models guy that can, or girl that can help push across and cut through some of the other stuff that we're seeing out there on Twitter and all the normal stuff that we see? So, in my mind, those are some of the things that I'm looking for is just people need to be original. They need to be authentic. They need to have their own voice. They need to be able to not just regurgitate the same old stuff that we see and read everywhere, right? And my last biggest takeaway is I personally, and this is why I've been a fan of the Athletic and I've had a sub since they first started, but I want to always try to learn one thing from anything I consume.
Mm.
And that's why I enjoy your pod. There's a few pods that I enjoy. There's a few writers I like to read because we all have group chats with our buddies, right? And we always want to look smart and we want to stick out. And, those are the things that are fun to me. If you have like a stat or a nugget that you read about or listen to, and then I can share that on my group chat, to me, that's pretty dope. And those are the kind of people that I look for is, can you do that to help take you to the next level? And that at least gets your foot in the door. Then, of course, you got to work your ass off. You got to be
Mhm.
really smart. You got to treat people really well. That's the other thing that just I'm still an outsider in the industry, but I do think that there's still a lot of people that just treat this thing like Game of Thrones or Succession, and you're just very happy when then you get to the next ladder and you just kind of kick everyone else down. But I'm more about just like lifting people up, and I'm very glad to have people like you and Glass-Steagall that have taught me that. But I think you got to be extremely kind because everyone's going to get knocked off the pedestal one
Oh yeah.
day. And it's like if you help people and we're nice to people, you will find a place and they'll help you get a job again. Whereas the other people, who knows if they're ever going to get back here, right?
Yeah. It is a interesting industry to say the least. I gotta say, like, a lot of people will hit me up, J Mac. Oh, you got to see my NFL picks. I'm on a heater, and I'm like, I'm wonderful. There's a billion people offering NFL picks. Would you recommend? Hey, find a niche, drill the hell down, own it. Whereas, the big lead, we did sports media as the niche and we dominated it. We were better than newspapers. We were better than other blogs. We own that space. Once you own a space, then you can kind of branch out. I know there's a guy named Harala Bob, who now is very wealthy. He was just making money hand over fist gambling on the NBA. I think he was doing like first halves or second halves. I forget what it was, but he was cleaning up on NBA. Once you do that, then you branch out, do whatever. Do you recommend to people, hey, if you've got an angle on tennis, drill down, dominate tennis, show that, and then you can come in and then do whatever you want once. But you've got to stand out, like you said, you've got to get a niche. Would you recommend that to people?
I do, but it's also catch-22 sometimes because, and I know this from personal experience, it's very hard to break into the industry. So a
Mm,
lot of times people want to have this whole portfolio and show that they can do everything almost, right? Because you're very desperate to take any job and you're trying to do like, I remember I was doing editing, writing, podcasting, marketing, trying to throw some events and do some panels here or there. So I understand that it is a tough space to break into, but in an ideal world, what you said is on point. If you can get really, really good at something, if you can build a following, I think that is very, very important. And whether it's like through Twitter or just, starting a blog now or starting your own podcast, if you can build an authentic following in a community, that will help you get a job in the industry or be able to get paid. And that does start with like being very, very specialized and very, very good at what you do. And I do think like times are very different than when me and you got started with like
yeah.
blogs and blogs with balls. Like that was the tipping point of all of this. But we grew up in a different time. There are less like roadblocks for people nowadays to just get out and go. And that's what I always recommend. And it's a very hard thing to do in your life, right? Because you're scared to put yourself out there. But if you have the ability, like just start your own podcast, tweet, start doing things, get a YouTube
Mm,
page, do a bunch of stuff on your own, and then you'll get better as the reps come, and you'll get better with time, and be open to people's feedback, and don't worry about the comments, don't worry about the trolls. I still remember you gave me this advice. You probably don't even remember this, but I remember writing my first article for the Big Lead, and there's people just going off in the comments and on Twitter, and you were like, dude, who cares? This is awesome. Like, good or bad, trolls or not, they actually take time to read your stuff and they're engaging with your content, which is a very, very good thing. And a lot of times that scares a lot of people from just like putting themselves out there, right? But
mm.
I would just encourage people to do what you said, like find your niche, find your path, get as many reps as possible, put yourself out there and just get going, start doing.
I know in the gambling space, there's a lot of issues with once you start winning at certain books, they just cut you off. I'm just curious how in your experiences, do you think, obviously we agree that's not fair, but do you see that changing where books are like, hey, we're taking all comers. We don't care. If you're good and you have an edge and you're beating us, fine, we got to do better. Or do you just see the book saying, hey, this is our show and you're winning money off it, we're cutting you off. Do you see that changing at all?
I don't know if I see it changing necessarily. I mean, FanDuel, DraftKings, there's these big companies that are like publicly traded, and there will always be like business oriented, bottom line, making the most money, right? And then, but there are books out there like Circa, for instance, that will
Oh yeah.
take bet, and I respect that. And I know Glass-Steagall, this is like a very touchy topic for him, so you should have him on, and he can go on for a whole
Yeah.
podcast talking about this, right? But I think there will come to some kind of happy medium pretty soon. But I still see them continuing to kind of do what they do, limiting, really big, long winning bettors. And the money now, the affiliate money is kind of dried up. The money now for these companies are like new bettors, right? And so,
Yeah.
starting new accounts, they've done the math, the lifetime value on all new accounts. So they're always looking for like new, fresh people. But that being said, there's so many books now, there's so many options. The stickiness is kind of gone from what they had imagined originally. And I think like they have to get competitive and they have to make some changes to make sure they retain some of these customers
Mhm.
instead of having them jump. So, I see them continuing to do like more bonus stuff, more fun stuff, more like making it enticing for people to stay and hopefully like that plays a little change in what you brought up as well.
You know how it works in actual sports media where people have takes on whether it's Aaron Rodgers, Caleb Williams is going to be the next Patrick Mahomes. These takes can live for a long time and they get views over time and go up. The gambling content, Vic, it's here today, gone 5 minutes after the game or after the game starts. It's like there just isn't a long tail for gambling content. Um, is there anything the media can do that you think would keep the content going? Because we've seen, Fox had a gambling show and ESPN, I think, still has a gambling show, or maybe it's just digital. I know, I think it was BetMGM canceled their show. It just doesn't seem like this robust gambling gold rush is still going on, or maybe I'm just seeing wrong and it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting. In my opinion, I always try to look at the sports media cycle from a betting lens. And so, like, to me, Aaron Rodgers goes down in the first game last year. This was one of our most read articles at Fox Sports last year. We spun out a couple of different stories like, how did his injury impact Super Bowl odds? How does injury impact MVP odds? There's a lot of news, reactionary, forward-looking, backward-looking stuff that I think the actual like general audience loves and is
Mm,
really into. And so to me, that should be a part of like any sports media company's portfolio almost. So of course you'll have picks, right? Like there's great talent like yourself and a bunch of people that every company will have, and you'll do shows and you'll do picks and you'll talk about that stuff. But I actually think there's this whole demographic and segment out there that's just not as hardcore bettors like we are. They don't
mm.
have chats. They don't bet $500 a game. They bet $10 on a game. They treat it like a movie. They're watching it for 3 hours. They're getting some entertainment. They
Yeah.
win bucks, great. If not, it was worth the price of admission. But all of these kind of casual fans and casual bettors now are also interested in like betting storylines. And, so more of that kind of stuff is what interests me. And what I think that the audience will link into more, and that will help keep this ecosystem kind of growing as a whole. And so that's kind of what we tried to do at Fox Sports as well, and
Mm,
we will try to continue to do at The Athletic. But it is a great question that you ask. Like, there's so many picks, shows, and articles now, right? And again, just going back to what we talked about a little earlier, it's like, can you be a little different?
hmm
Can you, whether that's with models or hot takes or smart or funny or witty or pop culture, just some different ways to kind of do picks is probably the other angle of this. And like, you do it really well. I think Nick Costos, he's got his own podcast. Like, he's got a great personality. Those are hey, if we were all 70% bettors, like we wouldn't have shows, we wouldn't have
Yeah.
jobs. Like we
Yeah.
would
No,
chilling on an island and enjoying life and not doing
indeed.
what we do, right? So, those are just some ways that I think you can differentiate.
I'm still digging into the games for this week, but for instance, do any games jump out that you've already bet this week? I know Washington, Baltimore, I think has the highest total of the season, 51 and a half. Baltimore was 7. It's down to 6.5. I think it dipped to 6 this week and then bumped back up. Jaden Daniels, a big test. It's kind of a regional game. I think that's probably the game of the 1 p.m. slate. And then, of course, Detroit, Dallas at 4. But anything on that game that jump out at you?
Yeah, you brought up the game that I like. I actually like the Cowboys. I know it's kind of crazy that
Oh, whoa.
everyone's going to be on Detroit.
I'm on Detroit. Damn it.
But I just think that this is going to be a high scoring game. Whoever gets the ball last kind of field goal wins game, and the Cowboys are getting 3 now. And so if you started before the season, it was Dallas -1 was this line. And so of course they haven't, played well.
Mm.
Detroit's hot, putting up a lot of points, and I just think Dallas can hang with them on offense at least. And they're going to get a little bit healthier is some of the stuff that I'm hearing. So, I think getting 3 at home, kind of in that 325 slot where there's going to be a lot of eyeballs on that game. I like Dallas in that as a home dog there.
Wow, I got to be honest. That is disappointing. I'm on Detroit. I don't love this Dallas team a bit. I mean, that game against Pittsburgh. I mean, I know they outplayed Pittsburgh and moved up and down the field, but they tried so hard to lose that game. And Vic, I look at them outdoors, and they seem like they're better on slower turf, right? Indoors against the Saints, get boat raced. Indoors against Baltimore, Ravens run out to a 28-6 lead. This is a really explosive Lions team. On the back end of that defense, Jamison Williams, he could have a Shaheed type game. Dallas seems slow to me.
It's the highest total of the week too. There's
I
going to
saw.
be
I just noticed that it's at 52. The other one's at
yeah, it's
51 and a
at
half. Yeah, yeah.
52. I mean, the over is fun too if you're just trying to put like $10 on a game and root
Well,
for.
that happened last year, but it was way under. Remember that game, that
Yeah,
crazy
it
ending
did
with
go
Campbell
under.
going for 2, and
Yeah.
that stayed under. Anything else on the week 6 card jump out?
There
I'm counting. Wait, hold on, Vic. I'm counting home dogs. It looks like is there 8? Well, if you include the Jets, it looks like there's 9. I mean, Seattle tonight is a home dog.
Yeah.
You have New England is a 7 point home dog. New Orleans looking like a backup quarterback home dog. The Broncos are a home underdog. The Raiders are a home underdog. Carolina is a home underdog. Dallas, New York Giants. I mean,
The
I
Pat,
don't know. Home
that
dogs are usually a pick that people like. I don't know.
this is one of those weeks where you have to like hold your nose if you
Yeah.
are into home dogs. Like, who really wants to take the Giants this
Oh,
week
I already
against the
bet the Bengals.
Bengals?
Yeah.
Coming off of that tough loss that they suffered last week, and there's a lot of games like that. I actually like the Cardinals. Um,
Hmm.
again,
In Green Bay?
in Green Bay. Packers to me, like they're a good team. I'm
Oh,
not.
wait. I should preface this. You are a Bears fan. Everybody
Of
needs to know
course I'm Bears fan, but I
that.
give the Packers credit. Like Jordan Love is good. I have no beef with the Packers right now, other than of course just hating them from being a Bears fan. But
Yeah.
to me, they even last week that first amazing pass that Love made, it was triple cover. Like there's no
Yeah.
way that ball. There's a lot of YOLO throws he makes, and there's a lot of like times where I feel like they're just on the power rating scale a little overrated. And for me, like you could shop around and get the Cards plus 6 right now. And
Hmm.
and again, I just think this is going to be a closer game, a 3, 4 point game. So being able to get the Cards at +6 right now is another bet that I made pretty early. And so I booked them, I booked the Cowboys. I'm gonna wait on the Bears game, and I try not to bet on the Bears just because,
Yeah.
maybe it's like you and the Jets as
Yeah.
well. But those are two that really stuck out to me. And then the college football slate is absolutely loaded. I don't know
It
if
is. Yeah.
you've looked at that. The one that I would love to get your thoughts on and is just really the Red River rivalry because you can't call it shootout anymore.
Oh,
So
that's right. Yeah.
yeah, that game because every single person that you talk to, any article you read, any podcast you listen to, 100% of the people are on Texas. Like everybody is on
Is it 14?
14 and a half right
Oh
now.
gosh, that's a big. And those games are always close, right?
Yeah, I feel like in Oklahoma has a good defense, and so the
Their
crowd's going to be
offenses.
absolutely.
That's the offense is a rough watch.
It is. They've had some people injured too,
That's
right?
true. Yeah.
So I wanted to get your opinion on that game if you were playing it, and then of course the OSU Oregon game is the big one on the docket, and so Oregon's a tough place to play, man. And so it doesn't matter what year it is or how good they are, they're getting over a field goal right now at all the books. That game, I think, was a 1 point spread before the season started. And
Hmm.
because OSU's been so good, it's OSU -3.5 right now. So, I like those two home dogs.
Hmm.
So that I might be sprinkling some money on those guys come Saturday.
Okay. Let me go back to NFL. So you had mentioned Green Bay against Arizona, and I was looking at my notes. I have this nerdy thing where I have notes on every game. And this is interestingly back-to-back weeks facing a Shanahan type offense, right? LaFleur comes from the McVay Shanahan. They're in that crew. And I wonder, is that an edge for Arizona defensively, having just seen Shanahan? Now, Shanahan didn't, I don't even think they punted in that game. They just had the kicker issue. But San Fran moved the ball at will. They had a fluky Purdy interception, the fluky Mason fumble. Um, I don't know if that's an edge for Arizona or is that an edge for Green Bay, seeing what worked and what didn't. Um, yeah, that's an interesting game. I initially was like, I don't have anything here, but I'll look into it a little more. As for the Ohio State, I'm on the Buckeyes -3. I would not do the hook. I'm not a huge believer in Oregon. My problem, Vic, and I'm working on this as a human and as a gambler, is first impressions. They matter a lot to me, and I can't get over watching Oregon the first couple weeks and just being totally unimpressed. Problem is, they're not like they were the first couple weeks, right?
For sure. I mean, they're getting better. And again, to me, some of these things are just they're college kids and playing at Oregon in that atmosphere. It those little things those intangibles to me stick out
Mm.
more in college than they do in the NFL,
Oh,
right?
totally. Yeah.
And so we've just seen it so many times where a lot of these guys like have amazing weeks or they're playing great or they get big heads and then they go to these schools and lose at their on those away games. And to me, like playing at Oregon, playing at Oklahoma this weekend, but of course talent wins at the end of the day, right? And so But I just think that it's going to be a super close game. And for me, the hook is why it ended up on my card. I'm with you. If I'm not getting 3.5, I'm not taking that game. And so you getting them at three, I get it. But as soon as it went to plus 3.5,
Mm.
to me, that's what made it worth, sprinkling some money on.
Yeah, let me ask USC Penn State. USC coming off a bad loss. Nobody wants to bet them. Penn State rolling. I got to take the points with USC here at home.
Yeah, I like USC in that one. And
Lincoln
so
Riley kitchen sink game. Like, hey, we can't lose another one. Lincoln's starting to get unhinged. I'm sure you saw the press conference where he like cut off the media member. Was like, don't ask our guy that. You know,
so,
that tough LA media is starting to get to him. I just want to go back one last game on the NFL. So we've seen these big underdogs cover. I think the underdogs of is it six or more or five or more, or something like 16-2 against the spread. It's a ridiculous run. Also,
yeah.
we know these things don't last forever. And here we have Philadelphia off the bye, getting healthy, hosting the Cleveland Browns, who are a disaster. Every press conference I see from Kevin Stefanski so far this week is Deshaun Watson getting benched? Who's your starter? Like, that's all they're asking. Nobody is backing the Browns here. Eagles now laying 9. Is this an Eagles smash spot? Do the Browns get right? There's a reports that Nick Chubb may try to go. I don't know your thoughts. Usually big spreads we avoid, non-divisional matchups, but what do you think?
I preface this by saying, like, I am very upset at Deshaun Watson because I started him in my fantasy league because I
Ah,
had last week, and like I really thought the Browns were going to win that game as well. So I had him in like
Mhm.
my picks pools, and I had him, I
Yep.
put some money down on them. But that being said, this line is a huge overreaction. This was like Philly -3 before the season started.
Yeah.
And so, if you're just a pure numbers person, like taking the Browns at +9, everyone is on Philadelphia. And let's be honest, as bad as Cleveland has looked, there's something going on in Philly, man. Like since the,
Yeah.
the second half of last season, they haven't looked right. And so for me to over a touchdown here, this is one of those games again, you close your eyes and you take the Browns just because of the number and really hope that this is their season, right? Like everything you said is literally that cycle. If they lose or get blown out, is this going to be another Jets type of situation this week, or is Deshaun going to get benched? Is there something going to happen with the coaching staff? Some changes will have to get made if they get blown out in this game.
Mm. Yeah,
You
somebody
know,
getting a run. It's
exactly.
weird because 9, it's like, oh, the Cleveland Browns are terrible. But if the Eagles are up 23-10, just coasting in the fourth quarter, just running out the clock, and then you get like 2 flags for DPI or holding, and all of a sudden Deshaun Watson, Eagles, who cares? We're winning the game. They give up a touchdown and they win 23-16, 17. They don't cover the spread, and you dominated the whole game. And I've been a victim of that a lot. I don't know. I got to look at Philly really long and hard here. I don't think the players are quitting on the Browns, but the problem is, like the Jets players, Vic, you mentioned the Jets, they weren't quitting on Salah in London, right? The defense was playing hard. They were in that game. They had a chance. Aaron Rodgers screwed them. The Browns lead the Raiders 10-0 and then kind of fall apart. The Browns look okay early and then get run out of the building by Washington. I'm not saying they quit, but it kind of
Sure.
sort of the offense is it looks like almost like a Brandon Staley situation. Remember they gave up 63 to the
Yeah.
Raiders, and that was
Yeah.
basically a sign, hey, get this guy the hell out of here. And they fired him like a day later. I don't think they would quit on Stefanski or Schwartz because Schwartz is a good defensive. I think they're quitting on Watson, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. I think he's divided the locker room, man. We've seen it a lot
Yeah.
of times in sports, right? Like, again, and Stefanski's like a coach of the year. His players have loved him in the past, and it doesn't seem like they're not going to quit on him. But when you have a locker room divided, that does take a toll on the squad as a whole. And then a couple things go bad in the game, you're just kind of throwing in the towel. You're like, oh, this one's over. Deshaun's not our guy. He's not going to be able to bring us back. So, you bring up a very, very good point. I just think that like it's now or never for them. Otherwise, next week you are going to see some real changes happen,
Mm,
right? And so, that's why I would grab the 9 there. But the one thing that worries me is there's always try hard teams that come back
mm,
in the scenarios that you mentioned that are good, like cover teams or backdoor teams. That hasn't been Cleveland. Like last week, I was like watching that second half or fourth quarter. There was no urgency.
None.
There were no garbage touchdowns. There was nothing. Their offense looked anemic. I'm a Bears fan. I've seen like terrible offenses, but at least they try hard. There wasn't even any,
Mm.
ambition or hustle in what Cleveland was doing in that second half, and that's what worries me. If they get out to a deficit early, I don't know. I actually
Yeah.
think that's worse than them staying in the game.
No, it could be right. So Vic, I think a lot of people will listen to this and probably fire up a resume and get it over to you. What exactly do you recommend to some young people? Because you mentioned following earlier, but at the same time, like, you guys can manipulate Google to just to get clicks on any article. What if somebody hits you up and is like, "Hey, man, I don't have a following on social media, but I have an angle that I think is good." Is that something you'd look for in one of the resumes or cover letters or whatever that someone gets you in? And go ahead and drop the email address in case somebody does want to hit you up.
Yeah, of course. No, and again, I think like just start a blog, start tweeting, start putting this on paper, right? And it's just like whether we like it or not, just like in real life, like you got to have some kind of work experience or use case, scenarios. And so to me, it's like use Twitter, use Substack, use a blog to like get your stuff out there. But yeah, hit me up on the side. Like I always try to pay it forward for what you and like Chad Millman, a lot of people did for me. Like you can hit me up on LinkedIn. You can hit me up at DocSquad33 at gmail.com, or I'm at DocSquad33 on Twitter. Just hit me up. Let's have a chat. Happy to give some advice for where you're at in your career. And there's always a place for someone, I think. And a lot of people, there's so many smart people out there that just need opportunities, right? And I think that's very, very important. But again, just going out and doing and hitting people up, getting 15-minute convos, I really think is a great, great time right now for people to be able to do that.
Yeah, Vic, good stuff. I still don't know what Doc Squad 33 is though. Do I after all these years? I don't think I know.
I don't think it was like a high school crew that we had, and that was my AOL screen name for
Oh,
be my
AOL.
update
Yeah,
for
yeah,
people
yeah. I
on
remember those days.
Twitter. But that was like my AAM screen name. 33 was for Scottie Pippen. That was my basketball number growing up, and so it's something I had, and again, when I joined Twitter, this is when it first started, man, and that was a very long time ago. And then after that, I just like built up a little bit of a following, didn't want to change
Mm.
anything. So that's kind of the origin behind it.
Nice. I guess I got a report as we're recording this on Wednesday afternoon. The news just came out that Gardner Minshew has been benched. Aiden O'Connell, the starter. I don't. Let me just double check the line. I don't think anything moved for the Raiders this week.
Looks the same.
Yeah, no. Imagine that. No drop off from Minshew, who is a capable backup. He ain't really a starter. Yeah, let me see here. I still see the line the same, right?
Yeah.
Three?
Looks at least
Maybe a little bit of
since
a
we've been
juice three.
that's three. Yeah, a little juice three.
Yeah, pretty sure it'll be 3.5. I don't Aiden O'Connell against now the injury to Herbig was big. He's the other edge rusher they have. He came off against Dallas and Dallas started to go off second half, it felt like. So yeah, I don't know that Pittsburgh's a lock there, probably a stay away. Anyways, all right, Vic, good stuff. Congrats on the